being in business intelligence for so long and analytics, 95% accuracy gets you fired. Anything less than 100% accurate and you're trying to make a business decision, somebody's getting fired. So think about that when you don't have a human to actually say that number looks wrong. If you're getting to a headless agent that's going to go take an action based on data, that has to be right. So that is the here and now. Whether you're a human typing in or voicing a business question, or whether you're a headless agent that's deciding whether or not to send an email to a customer, that fundamental underpinning of that semantic layer needs to be there to make that right.
And here we are with Venture to Victory podcast, where we look at the entrepreneurial journey from startup to exit. I've got Dave Mariani, CTO and co-founder of AtScale today, coming here from California. How you doing today, Dave?
Great to see you, Tim.
Well, it's great. It's great to finally meet you, and really appreciate you being on the pod. I think people are going to learn a lot about your journey. It's really fascinating. So I like to do a quick intro, just in case people are not aware of AtScale or your personal background. So here it goes. Dave Mariani, you're the co-founder and CTO of AtScale, and you have built some of the largest scale analytics systems in the world. At Yahoo, you architected what became the world's largest multidimensional analytics system. Later at Klout, you led the engineering behind real-time social data influence scoring, and we all know what the Klout score was. I personally was fascinated by this whole concept, as was my wife and my kids, both pro and con. And I still feel like maybe the episode of Black Mirror stole or borrowed something from what you guys were doing at Klout. That was pretty amazing. You've been had high level senior positions at a lot of companies, including the CTO of Blue Lithium, which was sold to Yahoo for $300 million, CTO of Axiom, and the CTO / founder of Mindshare, which was also acquired. It's a long multi-decade history of success. Dave has a bachelor's degree in economics and business from UCLA. He is often a frequent guest speaker at large tech conferences where he discusses the future of business analytics, semantic technologies, and AI. So again, really excited to have you here, Dave.
Thanks, Tim.
So I want to start with a question. So last night, I have 4 kids and my youngest is 13, and we watch a lot of Marvel movies. And I was just joking around. I said, tomorrow I'm going to interviewing a data superhero. And he goes, "What on earth is that?" And I said, well, I'm not totally sure. It sounds pretty cool and important. I don't know how you get nominated for that, but I'm going to ask Dave when I see him. So Dave, what does it mean? And what does it feel like to be a data superhero?
Well, one of our closest partners is Snowflake, and Snowflake has a group of people that they work really close with, and the group of people, they call them superheroes. I don't think I'm a superhero, but they really bring a small select group in to really give them feedback on product, show them roadmap before anybody sees it, all for for really sort of using that community to improve the product, improve the recognition of the product, get it to be new features to be used and exposed, and for people to write about it, about how they used it. So it's great because I get to see what's coming up, what's coming up on the roadmap, and I get to work with other really smart people and provide some really good feedback to Snowflake and in guiding their roadmap and what those features look like.
Well, that sounds awesome. I will let him know, but I just thought the term was so cool. And I knew it's something that AtScale had to earn over a long period of time. So something important. When I was kind of doing a little research, looking at your whole background, of course, I'm executive recruiter. So by day, that's what I do, is study people and their backgrounds and their history, try to figure out why they have traveled the path that they're on and where that's going to go. Obviously positive for our clients. And there were 2 things kind of really fascinating about your background as I look for patterns. Like the first thing was, if we take all of the non-public companies that you work for, and which is the majority of them, and there's a lot of them, it's not like 1 or 2, it's maybe 4 or 5, it's a large number. Something like 90% of every one of those had an exit and got acquired. while you were there. So I almost feel like to raise venture capital, we just put you in front of, the VCs, and they say, well, this is an instant, acquisition 90% of the time. So we're going to have some success. I thought that was amazing. I don't know if that's accident or based on the tenure that you had. I think there's a little bit more of intelligent design behind there. And then the second thing that I thought was really fascinating is you have all these senior level technical roles, CTO, VP of engineering. Yet when you look at your background, you don't have an engineering degree. It's business and economics. And so I guess that's a great place to start because it's not the normal path to becoming an entrepreneur, a startup person, and then doing all these big things in technical roles, yet you come out with a Bachelor of Arts degree.
Yeah, I was like, so I've always been a tech nerd. So I'm old enough to have been around before the internet, but still was born when PCs were born. So when I was in high school, Tim, I cajoled and fooled my parents into thinking that they needed to buy me an Apple II Plus for me to do my homework. And obviously, I just wanted it to really play games. But when I turned it on, it was like basically a green cursor and blinking cursor staring back at me. And what I realized there is that there was something called Apple Basic, and it was a programming language. And if you wanted to do anything with that thing, with that computer, that personal computer, you had to write code. And I instantly just loved that experience. But I grew up in Stockton, California. It's a farming town. The son of one of five children. My dad is and his grandfather ran a clothing store, and so we've been retail. So there was nobody really to tell me that there was even a career in computer science. And so I picked UCLA because it looked familiar to me. And so, when I got to UCLA and did the tour, I didn't realize until later that UCLA is where they film most college scenes for movies and television shows. So my vision of what a university would be was obviously burned into me by watching movies and watching shows without even knowing it. So I picked a college experience that what I dreamed of would be from Stockton, California, being, a kid whose parents didn't go to college. So that's all to say, Tim, is that a lot of what I went through was really by sheer luck. And at UCLA, it's like born of a retailer, my retail family. Business was sort of the only thing I knew that I could do, and economics was the closest thing to business at UCLA because I went to a place that didn't have a business degree. That's how wise my college choice was. But what happened when I graduated is I interviewed at several banks because that seemed to be the place for me to go. And when I interviewed at this company called Treasury Services, which was a financial services consulting firm. And what I didn't know is that they actually built software. Well, they operated software for somebody else's package, but when they interviewed me with my bleach blonde hair, just straight out of school, they're like, "So you said here on your resume that one of your hobbies is that you write code in Apple II Plus." I said, "Yeah, that's one of my hobbies." It's like, "You're hired." So basically, this company hired me and I started to write code, and we ended up building our own version of software that we were previously selling that other people made, and that became a software company that we ended up selling to Oracle. So I just ended up getting lucky into like taking my hobby and actually getting paid for it. And so, Tim, once I started to write code and get paid for it, I never looked back. But zero formal training in programming or in software development. Zero.
I will say I was literally reading this morning. Forbes came out with the top 20 universities in the world, and UCLA was on that list. So accident, happenstance, the law of attraction, I don't know, that energy pulled you to a pretty amazing place. And I will also tell you, I used to drive every weekend from San Francisco to Stockton for wrestling practice for my son. So do
Oh,
know
there you
Stockton
go.
very well. Yes, also known for the Diaz brothers in the UFC
Yeah,
out
that's
of
right.
Stockton,
That's
California.
exactly right. Chris
Yeah.
Isaac and
Yeah.
some of there's not too many people, but there are some.
Yeah.
Pavement, the band. But I think Tim, one of the things that because I didn't have a traditional computer science degree, what I found over the years is that being able to sort of understand business and understand software and being able to know both disciplines really ended up being my superpower.
Yeah.
Because I could bridge the gap. I could be a product manager and a dev manager and be able to really put two and two together. And that's always really benefited me. It's allowed me to start my own companies. And when you start a company, as you know, it's when you want to go raise venture money, you got to know how to sell, and because you're always selling. To
Right.
get those first customers, you have to be selling. So having both disciplines, both self learned on the computer science side and also learned on the business side, really was a great combination for me, honestly.
Does that affect you when you're looking to kind of build your team today? Same type of thing? Are you looking for people like, hey, you don't have to have, a PhD from Stanford or MIT. There's certain, attributes that I see in myself, let's say, that made me successful. Does that impact how you look at people today?
Yeah, and Tim, and when I talk to like people, other successful people on when I do podcasts myself, my own podcast, and I
Yeah.
talk to people, and I always start just like how you started, like how did you get started? Because the origin story of the career is always telling about people, and I found there's a lot of examples out there where some of these people ended up in tech but didn't start there, and I think that's a pattern that I've experienced, at least, that there's a lot of other people like me out there. And I don't know you could do that today, Tim. I don't think it's possible. I think it only happened for me because there were, it wasn't known that there wasn't there wasn't a software industry when I started. It's like
Yeah.
we morphed into a software company and all of a sudden we were a software company, but that wasn't sort of like there wasn't a lot of software companies then. Now I think it's like, unfortunately, it's a more well-worn path to how you get into technology and technology leadership, and it comes from having a technology degree, which I think is unfortunate, but that's the way it is.
Well, have you looked back and said, wow, it is kind of interesting that almost every company I go to, they end up having an exit within a number of years. Again, as someone who's seen thousands upon thousands of backgrounds of executive leaders, you kind of see a kind of a mix of that, or you see kind of a couple exits in there. I just thought it was fascinating. I thought, is it just that, is it happenstance, or was it just that when Dave comes in, we figure out a way to become so attractive that we have an exit?
So I worked for six companies in my life, and so of the first five companies, we've had exits, and so I'm 5 for 5 so far, Tim, but and working on the sixth with AtScale. But I guess what I would say on that is that uh, it's I look at sort of I didn't come up with the idea for Mindshare, which is the first company I started, or the idea for AtScale, which is my current company. It wasn't sort of I didn't it wasn't like I didn't write a paper in Stanford or do a thesis or do a little project, in a class to come up with this idea. It didn't come up to the idea didn't pop in my head in the shower. It was all through working in some industry and seeing where there was a gap. And so in my first company, Treasury Services, we were selling rate risk analysis software. So our software was basically trying to prevent the savings and loan crisis in the late '80s, and so that's what our software was. But what I saw is that people were struggling with the analysis of those results. So we would produce a bunch of numbers, and then what was needed was to do that next layer of analysis. And to me, that was the gap, and that's where Mindshare came out of. And then when I sold it to Digital Impact, the reason why I sold Mindshare to Digital Impact is that Digital Impact they were the first company to do email marketing. I mean, I'm dating myself, but just think about that, Tim. Email marketing is ubiquitous, right?
Of
But
course.
Digital Impact was the sort of pioneer there. But their analytics and their targeting was terrible. And so it's like, okay, if we were to combine, I can actually bring analytics and make Digital Impact a much better email marketing firm and make the customers more successful because now they can analyze the results to do better targeting and better personalization. And then the next one was, it's like I thought, wow, if I can use analytics to make money in marketing, this display advertising thing is really sort of the next thing. I mean, doing display advertising on the internet, what I
Right.
can do, we would send 300 million messages, or sorry, 30 million messages a day at Digital Impact. Well, Blue Lithium sent 300 million messages a day. And so I'm like, I want to do that because I know that I can take my skills and analytics and make that company more successful, which led into the acquisition by Yahoo. And guess what? Yahoo does 3.6 billion messages a day. So each time I was looking for a step up in orders of magnitude where I could take what ended up being my skill, which was analytics, and apply it to domains that could make those businesses more successful. So that was sort of how I charted my path and hopefully built value, enterprise value that ended up in acquisitions. Yeah, so I'll tell this the cloud story because I think that's an interesting one. So after Yahoo, social media was going crazy, right? And I really thought that, man, there's so much. I'm always attracted to data and big data, and social media is big data. And what I thought that Klout was doing that was interesting is like, the Klout score and Klout perks, which was like supposed to, get you to buy to want to build your Klout score so you get free stuff. I mean, that was all to me just a big gimmick. And what was really valuable was by connecting all the social networks, your social networks, and seeing your activity across them and being able to aggregate that, that was really super valuable information for enterprises, for companies who are trying to build their brand and who are trying to reach the right consumers. And I just thought that that data was so valuable. Again, I wanted to apply my analytics to it to be able to really make that work for businesses. And having that consumer bent was really fun. But in at Klout and then before that at Yahoo, the struggle I had with applying analytics at scale, and that's where this company came from. I kept on saying applying analytics at scale. So let's just call the company at scale. But where it came from was like, you know, this it was really hard to for my customers to make decisions on messy data. And what I mean by that is that that was also the birth of all these business intelligence tools and Tableau and Power BI and Excel and MicroStrategy, et cetera, Click. And everybody would sort of build their own dashboards and none of them would agree with each other. So the most basic metrics for Yahoo was clicks and impressions. So you click, you impress, and then you do your impressions to get them to come to the site, and then hopefully they'll click on an ad, and that's how we make money. And nobody in the company, I was responsible for data and analytics, and I sent it out to all the ends of the earth, and it would all come back completely nonsensical. So Yahoo homepage did not have the same impressions that Yahoo Finance did, even though you started on homepage, you went to finance or fantasy, and there was no way to tie these numbers together for the business. So there was no single source of truth, Tim. So I went out and tried to solve this problem, and I realized again there was this gap. There was nobody solving this problem. And then I went to Klout and it was even worse. And so that was the point where I said, somebody needs to solve this problem. And I had a very good friend who was an entrepreneur who ended up going to Kleiner Perkins. And he said, Dave, you've been talking about this forever. Quit whining about it and just go do it. And I said, but I don't have a CEO. I'm a VP of engineering. I'm not a CEO. I don't have a CEO. He's like, you're the CEO. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm a VP of engineering. I'm a CTO. It's like, Dave, just go and do it. And so that was sort of the catalyst that made me start AtScale. That was 13 years ago, where our focus was business intelligence. And then 2 years ago, ChatGPT was born. And all of a sudden, this problem we were solving for a source of truth for business intelligence, now that need is even more so for AI and for LLMs. So it's a whole new world now, Tim, with AI, because we provide context for AI. So we're the ones who can say we can connect Claude and ChatGPT to a business, so that when somebody asks, "What was my gross margin?" That's a calculation. Last year, is it fiscal year? Is it a calendar year? For the North region, what's the North region? What includes in that? Now the LLM can actually ask that simple question, and then we'll go and turn it into a query on the back end and return the right answer every single time. And so we're that translation layer that translates the LLM to the business, where those LLMs are trained on the general internet, but they know nothing about your business. And we're the connective tissue that makes that all work now. They're very large enterprises. We pretty much, if you drive down the road and you look, you're going to see at scale customers left and right. Lots and lots of retailers, lots of financial services, lots of health organizations. So those big sectors tend to be where we're most prevalent. There's a change. We started out on BI, and this is another sort of entrepreneur lesson. It's like I never envisioned LLMs when I started the company 13 years ago. Um, but what I did is I said, what we needed to solve is we needed to provide a single source of truth for analytics for enterprises. That's the problem we're solving. And it turns out that, yeah, that now that's a even bigger problem, because in the age of AI, and we were able to be smart enough with our money, be careful with how we spent and raised capital, so that we could actually be here and now to really exploit the bigger opportunity, much bigger than the opportunity that I was trying to solve when I started the company. So I hired a CEO. I was a CEO for the first 5 years, and I hired a CEO, and I had a new management team, I got a lot of pressure to put an AI story on AtScale. And I'm just like, look, it's like, I'm sorry, I would love to have an AI story. I know that's cool and hot. This is the era of machine learning. I'm saying we just don't have that story. And so no, Tim, it was not because that wasn't our story. Machine learning, auto ML, was not our business. But as soon as people are trying to ask business questions using an LLM, now it is our business. And so now we have an AI story. And so we recognize it. I recognized it 2.5 years ago. As soon as I saw what these LLMs could do, I knew that semantics were key to allowing them to be successful and applicable for a business, not just for consumers, not just for planning your travel, not just for asking about to analyze a legal document. It's to actually ask questions of your business data. There's no way you can do that without a semantic layer. Yeah, that's no, that's precisely right. So Tim, it's funny because a lot of people think that they quote numbers like 95% accuracy. So being in business intelligence for so long and analytics, 95% accuracy gets you fired. I mean, it's like if you're anything less than 100% accurate and you're trying to make a business decision, somebody's getting fired. So think about that when you don't have a human to actually say that number looks wrong. I'm not going to use it. Now you have to have 100% accuracy. So if you're getting to a headless agent, meaning you're going to have an agent that's going to go take an action based on data, that has to be right. So that is the here and now. Whether you're a human typing in or voicing a business question, or whether you're a headless agent that's deciding whether or not to send an email to a customer because you think they're going to churn. It's the data has to be right, and that fundamental underpinning of that semantic layer needs to be there to make that right. Yes. Well, so this is what I've learned with these tools. So when I first started doing demos I use Claude and I do demos using our MCP server, which is our sort of interface into our semantic layer. And so I would say, show me sales by product for France. And it's like, that's a very business intelligence like query. You can imagine sort of doing that in a BI tool. And then somebody told me, Dave, you're doing it all wrong. Just you should be saying, show me something about sales, and a much more general open ended question. And then what I realized is that the LLM it would just it would create its own questions, but it created its own questions with the semantic understanding of that business. So the questions so it knew what questions to ask, or that's non-deterministic. That could be hallucination. So whenever I do a demo, Tim, and I do tell me something about sales, the answers are the what it asks and what questions it asks are different every single time. I don't know where it's going to go, but the answers about the data are deterministic, meaning they're the same gross margin for France by product every single time. So you want the LLM to be creative and non-deterministic when it comes to doing the research. You just don't want it to be creative and non-deterministic when you're querying your actually business data. So it's the best of both worlds, honestly. Um, when I say like when I do these demos, I never know what's going to happen. So when I sort of if I do my seed question about France, um, sometimes it actually reports the numbers in euros, and sometimes it doesn't. So it's kind of like, and when it does, it's like, oh, look how good that semantic layer and Claude is. It actually my numbers are all in dollars, but it converted it automatically to euros. So sometimes I get ahead of myself, and it just doesn't do that because again, it's non-deterministic. So some of my demos are like, and sometimes Claude or ChatGPT it goes off the deep end, meaning it just is spinning and it's like it's asking questions after question and it actually never comes back with the answer. Sometimes when I ask it to do charts, it produces beautiful dashboards, and sometimes they look like crap. It makes sort of my normal demos where they're just buttoned up and deterministic. It makes it sort of an adventure. So I've been embarrassed a number of times trying to do demos with AI. Hmm. Hmm. I just look, it is amazing, Tim, because, we've been using this data set called AdventureWorks. I've been using it for 13 years, and I never knew anything about the business of this bike shop, basically. And now with an LLM, I'm like, "Oh my god, did you know that our best-selling bike is silver and that there's premium buyers like the color black and that Australia is on par with the US market?" I mean, so, I didn't know that, and I never would have known that even though I've been doing demos on it with BI tools for 13 years. So it is amazing. I think it's not just a game changer, it is a game changer. It's a game changer, but it's a game changer in a lot of companies, I think, are gonna find out that their data is really messy, and, you can't have messy data with AI. It's gonna fall apart, and then people won't trust it, and then if you don't trust it, you're gonna lose the opportunity to actually use these tools on business data. Mhm. I mean, every single one, Tim, had multiple near-death experiences. Every single company I'm all 6 companies I've ever worked in, all we've all had near-death experiences, and, like, I think that, what I learned in that is to stay calm, and, like, look, with, when I was an entrepreneur, like, raising money, it's like almost every round I was within 2 weeks of running out of cash. And that's just and that's nerve-wracking, but I think that you have to believe in your mission, and that's why it's like I never I think it's really important for entrepreneurs to know that you have to go and live the problem before you can solve the problem. And if you really are solving a real problem, a problem that you yourself personally felt and had, then you're going to have conviction that this is the right thing to do. Because ultimately, when I sell at scale, when I'm selling this, I'm selling to myself. And, that comes off to the prospect, the person on the other side of the table or phone or video. It actually comes off as like genuine because it is. It's like I've walked in your shoes. And so the conviction needs to be there. And I always say, the number one rule in startups is don't die. Live to fight another day. Do not die. And every single one of those companies had multiple near death experiences for sure, Tim. And it's like, it's just having the perseverance to live on and to find a way to keep going. As a CEO, which by the way, it's like that's such a stressful job. I never want it again. But as a CEO of AtScale, so we have Friday meet every Friday. We would have at the end of the day we'd have a meeting, a company wide meeting, and basically we'd all get up there and we'd say exactly what was going on, and it was the good, bad, and the ugly. So my style is transparency. It's like, because if people trust you and they know that you're telling them what's happening, um, yeah, you could. A lot of CEOs will think, oh, well, I don't want to worry the team. They actually worry more if they think you're holding something back, because they're going to hallucinate and think there's something even worse than what actually may be happening. So I've always been fully transparent about what we're doing financially, how we're doing with customers, what our challenges were. And that was really appreciated. And we had like near perfect retention as a result, because not only is like, do they believe and trust the leadership, it's like, not only do they see the vision because they understand that they're on a journey and they're excited about the vision, but they know that it feels like a family. And I know that's a cliche, but when you're in the know, you feel like your family, you feel like you're part of it, and you're not just them, meaning, oh, that management team, those guys. It's like it's we. It's not a they. It's not they them. It's we. And that's really that's really what I found worked really well. And a lot of companies, a lot of CEOs, that's not the style. It's the opposite, or something in between. For me personally, full transparency worked really well. Very good point. Hmm. Hmm. I mean, part of it, Tim, is like, look, I'm an optimist. And I hate to say, my wife is, you got to have the yin and yang, right? My wife is not like an optimist like me. And that's kind of why we work. But the point is, like, as an entrepreneur, you have to be a crazy optimist, a stupid optimist, because if you start to doubt yourself, you start to doubt, you have doubts in yourself, it's not going to work. And like, I'm not a worrier. I don't get worried. And other people, if I was worried, people can read other people and tell that they're worried, and then they'll panic because they see that they're worried. And I just think that when you look at yourself, and a lot of people want to say, I want to be an entrepreneur. Myself is what I always say is like, you sure you got the uh the condition, not the condition, but do you the disposition, thank you. Do you have the disposition to be an entrepreneur? Because you have to be a fearless optimist, because you're not going to make it otherwise. Yeah. So Tim, I want to tell us a little bit of the story on this, because when I was trying to raise money for AtScale, look, I've been up to every VC up Sand Hill Road. At the time, it was just Sand Hill Road. It wasn't VCs were on Sand Hill Road. That was it. There was no Palo Alto or all this other stuff, right? Menlo Park, it's like every single one of them said no. And you know, I c- and uh, but I remember I got really far, and I got to really far down the road. And I thought I was about to get a term sheet, and I sat down with a partner, and the partner there asked me this question. He said, "Dave, so is your goal to buy a yacht or to buy an island?" And I'm like, it's like that's not my goal at all. It's like my goal is like, look, I want to make money, no doubt. Everybody wants to make money, but my goal is to solve this trust problem in analytics, and I want to go solve that, and then the money will come. And you know what? It's like I didn't get funded. That was the wrong answer. And I'll always remember that. It's like, you know, do you want to buy a yacht or buy an island? What a freaking stupid question to ask an entrepreneur. It's not about the money. It's about the mission. And we all like to make money. And we think that if we're not going to be spending our time on something that isn't going to create value, because if we actually deliver on what we promise, the whole point is that we're delivering value, and then the money will come. And so that's my other advice to any entrepreneur that will listen is like, don't think about the money. Think about what you're doing, make customers successful, whoever your customer is, then the money will come. You tell me, Tim. What was the well? I think the right answer was that it was an island because you know that I was going for something bigger, and I get it, you know, because the VCs I'm talking to, it's like they're looking for $1 billion outcomes here. So and so that was sort of like I think the question, the reason why they asked the question is like how big do I think? But it's just like I don't think in terms of dollars. I think in terms of of customers and customer success, not an outcome for me personally. You know, percent. You know, look, it's like ultimately people who are on the journey with you. I mean, they're building their careers. They're not going to be able to buy a yacht for the most, unless it's ridiculously out of control successful. They're looking to buy a house, and that would be a great outcome, right? And to me, what I say to my team is like, look, it is I promise you that if you stick with me and you work with me, that I will make your career. I will make you more valuable by working at this company, so that when you can go out and get that next job, it's going to be a better position for more money and more responsibility. And I promise that you will leave this company a more valuable employee, or a more valuable team member for your next venture. And I promise you that. And it's not just saying it, right? It means that I'm not just squeezing, you know, work out of each employee, each team member. It's about to say, what am I doing to really deliver on that pledge? It's like, am I giving you more responsibility? You said you wanted to lead a team. Did I provide you the ability to lead a team or to lead a project so you can build those organizational skills and those leadership skills? It becomes like, and if you do that and you do that with every employee, you end up making great employees and great team members, which makes a better team. So everybody accrues in value there, not just the individual. And I think that's really something a lot of people miss. So, so I would say to Tim is like, it wasn't just me, it was also my co-founders. It's like the first 80 people that we hired were all people that we had worked with previously. And so it's not, it wasn't good for recruiters, but it was really good for us because, we got to be able to work with people that we've known and that we've been successful together. And that builds a lot of trust and makes for a successful company overall. That's a great question. So for me, being victorious means that you didn't leave anything on the table. Like you took advantage of every opportunity, every God given gift that you have, and you've maximized that. And that's in every aspect. It's not in just in business. It's in your personal life. It's in your personal goals as well. It's like you didn't leave anything on the table. So to me, being victorious is you're going to win and lose, and your losses. To me, I've learned more from my losses than I have from my wins. And so you got to be able to be okay with the losses. You got to pick yourself up. But at the end of the day, you're going to do your best, and you're going to use your God given gifts to be to you know to make a difference in the world. And so, to me, that's what it means to be victorious. Amen. Amen. Awesome. Thanks, Tim. Cheers.
The Venture to Victory podcast is provided by MatchStar Venture Search. If you're interested in any of our open executive roles or need help sourcing world class talent for your company, check out our website at matchstar.com.